Carmen. So today we're going to get started on a dish which is a roasted chicken, also paired up with a chicken flavored rice. So we're going to go ahead and get started on our meal. So first you're going to need a whole chicken, which we have here. It's already been rinsed. The chicken neck has already been taken out. Now with the chicken neck, you can also save that. That is something that you could use to make chicken broth with. So we don't want to make sure we don't want to waste any pieces, but today we will not be using the actual chicken neck. What we're going to do is go ahead and get started, and you're going to need olive oil. You're going to start out with olive oil and butter. So what we're going to do is put a little olive oil on here, extra virgin olive oil that is, because we're just going to rub that in. So actually, if for measurements to break it down, you probably, depending on the size of the chicken, but safe bet I would say anywhere between 1/3 of a cup as a starter to go ahead. So what I'm going to do, you're going to need your hands on this dish. So if you're afraid to get your hands dirty, it's might not something you want to do. But we're going to go ahead and get this rubbed in really good. Make sure you get up under the arms, the legs, because we want to make sure that he is greased really well. So now that we got that rubbed in, we're going to go ahead and get butter. So I am using salted butter. If you want to use unsalted butter, that is optional. That's up to you. But with the salted butter is going to help give it a little bit more seasoning and more flavor. So we're just going to get that rubbed in, and you want to rub him all the way, the same way you did. So you're going to get up under his arms and his legs. Make sure you give him a good rub down. You can also put some inside of the cavity as well. Okay. So I think I got that rubbed in pretty well. That covered really good. So I'm gonna go ahead and wipe my hands off, and we're gonna go ahead and get started on the seasoning. So now that we've already put the olive oil and the butter on the chicken, we're gonna go ahead and make sure we get our oven preheated on 475. We're gonna put it that high simply because we wanna make sure that once we get all the seasonings on there, that it's going to give it that nice golden crispy look, that rotisserie type of style look. So let's go ahead and finish getting this seasoned. So I have kosher salt here. This is something that I prefer using kosher salt because this really draws the flavor out of your meat. So this is always a plus for me, but you're welcome to use iodized salt too, which is perfectly fine, but the preference for me will be kosher salt. So we're gonna go ahead and sprinkle some inside of the cavity because we wanna make sure we get that part seasoned. You just wanna take it and just kind of rub it in on the inside. Just gonna add just a tad bit more, not too much. So a good rule of thumb, remember you can always add salt, but you can't take it out. So you always want to make sure you're being really careful with your salt. So once we finish putting the salt on the inside, we're going to go ahead and take lemons. You can quarter your lemons. I'm just going to go ahead and put 3 in there. We're going to add that in there for just to add a little bit of acidity on the inside, okay? So now we're going into our seasoning. So here, what I have, a mixture of a rub that we're going to use. And what this consists of is smoked paprika. You have medium chili powder, you have onion powder, you also have garlic salt, and also a little bit of that kosher salt as well. So we're gonna go ahead and get that sprinkled on there and kind of pat that in. So just kind of want to pat that as you go, because this is your rub here. So we're just going to kind of flip them over on his side just a tad bit because we want to make sure we get underneath there too. Even though the seasonings are going to, as it cooks, as it begins to break down, it's going to get flavor too, but you want to have that additional flavor on the bird all the way around, have that actual consistency. Make sure we get up under his arms too. Okay, so we're just going to flip that back over. Add a little bit more seasoning because we want to make sure it is coated all the way through. So now that we have that done, now we're gonna actually stick this in the oven. You don't wanna put a lid on it, so, because like I said, we wanna make sure we get that nice golden crisp skin. So we're gonna go ahead and put this in the oven. So now we're getting ready to get started on our rice. And you wanna make sure that your skillet is hot. So what I'm going to do is put extra virgin olive oil inside the pan. Now you do have an option. Typically this dish is made with manteca. And you're probably saying, Carmen, what is manteca? Manteca is lard. So that is like all the fats and calories, but we're gonna go the skinny route today, kind of. You know, we're gonna lighten up on some of those calories. So we're gonna use the EVOO on here. So I'm gonna pour just enough to cover the bottom of the pan. See how that is smoking there? We don't want it to really smoke like that. So my pan is a little hot, but that's fine. So we got jasmine rice. We're gonna go ahead and add the jasmine rice in here. Let me turn this fire down some. What I'm gonna do is just go ahead and add the rice off the eye for right now. So I like to use jasmine rice. Jasmine rice has a really great flavor and it's also very fragrant. It smells really good when it's cooking, but you have the option to use long grain rice. Like I said, I like to use jasmine rice, so we're gonna use that. And I'm actually just gonna pour enough in here just to my satisfaction. But if you actually need a breakdown, if you wanna start out with it, you can start out with at least 2 cups of rice. And if you feel that you need a little bit more, then you can add more to it. So now that we have our rice in here, we want to make sure that it's really covered with the olive oil. So as it's cooking, it's going to turn into an opaque color. That's what you want. So we want all of that rice to look like that. You want to make sure that you are keeping an eye on it because it will burn rather quickly. So you want to continually to stir that rice. So now that we have the rice to the consistency it's supposed to be, the color, we're going to go ahead and add our water in. So you really want to be careful with this part because as you see that the steam, how the steam comes up, so you don't want to burn yourself. So we're just going to put it enough in just to cover the top. So now that we have that going, that water, because we'll be adding more water throughout the process as it cooks. So now that we have that, we're going to go ahead and add our seasoning in. So what we have is chicken bouillon that we're going to add in here. Chicken bouillon is just a season in there just to add just a little bit of flavor that's in there. When you add that in there, that's going to give it a little boost. So here we have the azafran by Sazon. You're going to add this in here. This is going to give it that color. So you want to add all that in. So I actually used 4 packets of that. You can add more if you like. And I'm just going to give that a good stir. That's going to give that nice yellow color. So if you ever wonder how they get the rice colorful in different colors, this is one of the ways that you do that outside of using saffron, which is a very nice spice, but it's very expensive. So this is like an alternative to get that yellow color. So I'm going to add a little salt, a little kosher salt to go in there. So once you get that going, you want to get that mixed, and then you also want to taste that because during this process here is where you want to make sure that your base is going to be, it's really seasoned because it's got to go through that rice that's in there. So we're just going to give that a little taste. It's perfect. So you want to go ahead and add your garlic pieces that's in there. So we're going to mince the garlic. Okay. So you want to get you a mincer, or if you prefer to chop it up, that's fine. But just remember, the finer that the garlic is, the more flavor that allows it to come out and go into your dishes. So I love garlic. Garlic is a real good health benefit, and plus it really adds a lot of flavor. So typically, I'll just add garlic till I feel that it's enough. So that's what we're gonna do. So far I'm on 3. I'm just gonna go with that for right now, and then I'm gonna give that another little taste, and if it's where it needs to be, then I won't add any more. If I need to, then I'll add additional garlic cloves. So right now we're at 4 garlic cloves in there, so you want to give that a good stir. So as you can see, that the rice, how the water is boiling down, we're going to let this boil down a little bit more, and then we're going to add more water in it. So you're going to be adding water in there at least probably about 3 times. And the reason for that, because the rice is soaking up the water, so we want to make sure that we're continuing to add that water in there, so we'll keep it from getting dry and making sure that it'll be able to cook thoroughly. Go ahead and give this another little taste. So I'm gonna go ahead and add water, some more water in, because as you see, it's boiling down already. So we want to just add a little bit more water. And as you see, the color is like a yellowish orange kind of color, real pretty. So this rice is going to turn out really nice. So we're just going to let that boil down some more. Once that's boiled down, we'll add probably a little bit more water to it. I'll look at it and look at the consistency and see if it needs more water. And then if not, then we'll go ahead and add the beans and the tomato, and we'll let that simmer down. We'll put it on, change the temperature and bring it down to a lower temp. Okay. So this rice dish here is basically more of a Mexican type style dish, but also with a Carmen twist. So I typically do not follow recipes. I make things into my own. So with this rice here, some of the ingredients that I added in are, what the little twist, the change that I had. So right now we have the rice that's boiling down. So we've already added water twice into it. So it's ready to add the other parts of the ingredients in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add my cilantro in here. We're just going to add just a little bit for now, because later we'll go ahead and top it off with the cilantro. And then you're going to add your black beans. So with your black beans, you want to get a can of black beans. With that can, it doesn't have to be an expensive brand, just any type of style of black beans. You want to go ahead and get those rinsed. Once you rinse that, then you're going to go ahead and just add that into the bean mixture. But definitely make sure you rinse those beans, because we don't want that black juice that's in there, because it's going to interfere with the color of your rice. So you put as many beans as you would like to have in there. Give that a good stir. So we don't want to do a lot of beans, but if you want a lot of beans, then you can go ahead and add a lot. And then we're going to go ahead and add our tomatoes. So we have Roma tomatoes that are chopped up. So we're going to add that in here. We're going to let that finish. We want to actually let that cook on the back end. So you can add tomatoes, as many as you like, or you can omit that process. It's totally up to you. So now that we've got that added in, so see how that already looks pretty, because you got all those different colors and textures going on. So we're going to go ahead and put the lid on here. We're going to let this rice rest. We're going to go ahead and turn that fire off. And from the heat that's already within the pan, that's going to continue to cook that rice. And it's going to soak up, absorb the rest of that water that's in there. So now we're going to check on our chicken. So the chicken is coming along nicely. It's not completely done, but I'm going to go ahead and take it out of the oven so you can get an idea of what it needs to look like. So as you see, we have that nice golden crispy skin here. That's the color that we want to go for. That's what we're trying to achieve. So the juices that's at the bottom of the pan, you want to grab those juices, because we're going to baste it. We're going to baste that chicken because we don't want it to dry out. So you want to get a baster, or if you don't have one, you can use a spoon, old-fashioned way. There were spoons before there was basters. So So now that we have that basted, so what I'm going to do is turn my temperature down in the oven. And I'm going to drop it down to 375. And we're going to continue to let that cook. We'll leave it on that temperature until it's completely done. Looks like we're almost there. Chicken is done. I put it in the plate already and got it centered. And then once you do that, you want to go ahead and baste it one more time. So now we're going to go ahead and add the rice. So the rice is done. And when you look at it, you can see just how fluffy that texture is. That's the type of rice, that is what we are actually looking for. It's to be nice and fluffy. So we're gonna go ahead and actually add this with the chicken. Now that we have this plated, we have the rice surrounding the chicken here. So we're gonna go ahead and finish it off. I'm gonna add a little bit of cilantro here, just around the edges, just to make that dish pop just a little bit more. And then we're gonna go ahead and add a little lime to it. So you wanna get you a little squeezer here, or you can use your hand, whichever is more convenient. And you just wanna squeeze that lime juice that's right in there. Just get it on that chicken. Well, that lime is a little tough. Just gonna add that lime juice in there. So we're just gonna use one for right now. And you can go back and taste it. If you wanna add more just to give it a little bit more acidity, then you can. It's definitely optional. So we're just gonna add little lime pieces in here that are already been pre-cut for a little garnishing. And then boom, you're done. There's your chicken and rice dish. Thank you for tuning in with another episode of Cooking with Carmen, and I'll catch you guys another round.
It's good. Amazing. It's really good.
What's your favorite part?
The chicken. The chicken is my favorite part. It's all crispy and so good. The rice is good too with the beans. But it's delicious. Can I eat this one? Can I take this one?
Can you take it home? I can put it in a container for you.